It's your boy Tipsy Japan back with another episode of ATAS across time and space. Yes, we're on episode 47 here with the man Ace that needs no introduction, but I'm going to allow him to introduce himself because that's just what we do. That's how we've been doing it up till now. Ace, go ahead and hit him up. Blackout.
You already know it's your boy Ace of Cross Culture coming back with another ATAS. I can't match the energy of my co-host usually, but maybe I need to get real down in it. ATAS.
I don't know. What's that note? I don't know what that note is, man. The missus, she could say, oh, that's me, Faso, or something. I don't even know, but yeah. It feels so good to be back, man. We're doing our normal introductions, and today, of course, we have our regular guest, our co-host, on the show, coming in from Cross Culture, and there are big things going on in Cross Culture right now. Things are getting upgraded, things are getting expanded. We're moving closer and closer on the show towards episode 50, which is going to be a big bashment over there on Cross Culture, but we're doing things properly over here as well on our channel. We're always talking about basically the books that we're reading and enjoying, and talk about how those issues apply to life. So the book that we're reading right now is it's on the little ticker at the bottom of the screen. It's called Homo Deus by Yuval Noah Harari. And so last week we finished up chapter 2 / expanded into all kinds of freestyle on life and the goodness thereof. How did you feel about the show last week, man? Because I was waxing philosophical, and I'm trying to keep it together.
So the thing about last week is we did discuss the book all that much. So a lot of people might think that the title that I put up there, cucumbers are for suckers, it might not make any sense. But if you are reading with us, then you already know that cucumbers are for suckers. And, we'll leave that as a little Easter egg for those that are faithfully following along in the book. That'll be an inside joke. We might bring it up some other time.
Right. I mean, there are some inside jokes in there.
But there was a question that I didn't answer last week.
There was a question.
I don't remember the question.
Yes. Look, I ain't gonna let you get away. You know what? I should refer to the listeners, because if you're listening carefully, you know the question he didn't answer. I said, so what is it? And he didn't say exactly what it was. How do you define that specific thing? Remember what your homework was? Did you did your homework? All right, then you would know. I'm gonna leave it to the listeners. You got 5 minutes to figure out what this man's homework was supposed to be. And if you can't, well, it's okay. I'll go ahead and let that out there. But yeah, I mean, we were talking about all kinds of like New Year's resolutions and how we want to get into different areas of our lives and whatnot. And I just kind of like expanded a whole lot. He gave me the space to do that, and it was great. Like, it felt like I needed to get that off my chest. And you also notice what's on my chest right now. This is the if you're watching us on YouTube live, that'll be the Hartford banner that I have across my chest at the place I was born and raised. And
the heartbeat.
Yeah, also the heartbeat. I saw Heartbeat Productions was actually one of the studios that was involved with this movie that I saw last night called Slam Dunk. Slam Dunk being one of the best basketball mangas / animes in history. Kimi ga suki da to sakebitai.
The first book. I did read that in high school. Yeah.
It's like, coming of age story. It's a lot of drama in there too that I didn't even realize. Like, each character has so much depth to them, and you can see the growth even during the movie. Like, they try to pack it all in there. And it's like 20 years ago, right? It really was like 20 years ago that it came out. In fact, a little bit more. It's like it's the 90s that came out here. So yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, that's really going back. But the original maker of the writer, original author, was actually involved with the production of the movie, and they did it right. They did it right. Slam dunk. All right. And this show is going to be a slam dunk. Today, we're going to be talking a bit about the cognitive dissonance. And, it sounds like one of those 75-cent words that, not everyone says in their everyday life. So when you hear cognitive dissonance, what comes to mind? What does that mean? People say cognitive dissonance. Actually, if you can tell it to the people, because sometimes I'll be out there in space, man, talking about all kinds of folks, it's all kinds of things. When you hear cognitive dissonance, is that a positive
Across
thing? Is
time
it a
and space.
negative thing? Is it what's going on? What's going on?
So cognitive dissonance.
That's your homework. No.
I'm the exact definition. It's not a good or bad thing on the onset, but it can become a very bad thing if left unchecked. It's when there's a paradigm shift in your worldview and you have to come up and wrestle with this new information. Is this going to be something that I take on, or is it just so? If you take the of ignorance, it's usually the cognitive dissonance. You distance yourself. Writers would say the psychic distance between the idea and the character would grow. But if you wrestle with the idea, even if you don't agree with it, you come up against the idea and you say, you know what, that's not what I believe. I believe this. But I respect that there are some people out there that think that way and believe in that. That's cool. They have their own. But if you are coming up and say, let's say, I don't want to get too political or anything. But if you just look at the whole thing of genders recently, if you the whole thing of abortion recently, and then there's some other things like people don't believe that Australia is a real continent. People don't believe that kangaroos are real. People don't think that narwhals are real. That's the cognitive dissonance. Hey, a narwhal is a real, a unicorn is not. That doesn't make any sense. They have the same type of horn. They both must be imaginary. That's the cognitive dissonance.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I get that for sure. It's a contradiction, like between reality. See, I just see it as basically a contradiction between reality and the things that you believe, or the things that a person believes. Like, to actually be in this state where you're aware of the cognitive dissonance and you just keep living anyway. Like, okay, I understand that that's there, but I see things this way. And I'm not willing to just say, well, reality is only what we perceive as reality. Like, I believe that there's more to this reality than what we perceive, even though I don't have any evidence to prove that per se. Because if I had evidence, then we would call that thing that I believe reality, and we wouldn't call the other thing that everyone sees as reality. This is it's not in harmony. There's a dissonance that we are cognitively aware of, but we do not address because it is quite inconvenient sometimes. It's quite inconvenient sometimes. So I bring it in real close, like that concept of cognitive dissonance. When I heard it the first time, and it was like, what was that? Cognitive dissonance? What are you talking about? That people live with cognitive dissonance all the time. They may not necessarily, when you talk about, gay marriage and, all these different issues related to LGBT and so on and so forth. That's a part of their reality, like that's there. And I can't process it type of thing. But it's there. It's part of their reality. But I don't even have to think about it. So it's not part of my reality, even though it is
Mhm.
part of your reality. We're all here on the same country, same planet, same Earth, whatever. Can't just go through life pretend it's not there, like it's not an issue, like it is. You know. So
True.
another cognitive dissonance that people deal with. No, I don't believe in cruelty to animals, but how cruel are we? We're eating them when we're eating them, and the whole industry that supports destroying these animals, like the way that they are destroyed, right? Like, I mean, it's wild.
Vegetarian, just saying.
That's what I'm saying, but not everyone is. Not everyone is, right? Everyone wants to
Yeah.
believe that they're, logical and this and that and the other, and they're kind and whatever towards all sentient beings. But to what extent? When you really get it under that camera, not camera, the microscope. Yeah,
Cool.
what's
Yeah.
really so this chapter 3, really focused in on those types of issues. And I had lots of questions that I want to ask and not just be Mr. Talkative. So let's get into it. Soup du jour for today.
Oh,
And of course, you said there was some nice music. I didn't want to steal the good music that you had last week, though. That was dope. I'm gonna take it slow. It's your boy Teacher Japan back with another episode of ATAS. Today we're talking about Homo Deus, chapter 3. And it's the third chapter of the audiobook. In the description below, you guys can check the link, which will give you 60 days of script for free. And it'll give me another 30 days of script for free. I think it's only $9.99 in the States, and you get like 1 million books. Folks, what are you doing? I should be getting paid for these.
a lot of stuff. Not just books, physical books, but you get a lot of stuff that people have uploaded themselves. A lot of PDFs, things, study guides, like so much stuff. It's kind of crazy. And as long as you are paying that, monthly fee, you have access to all of it. Hashtag sponsored, not sponsored.
Right? I'm saying, man. Like, I mean, if you guys decide to sign up using my link, I get another 30 days. You get 60. You get 2 months of over 1 million books, audio and visual, like New York Times bestsellers. What are we waiting for? I don't know. Honestly. All right. So, in any case, I'm not gonna harp on it too much, because that'd be like an advertisement, and they should pay me for it. I don't think I spelled yeah. All right. So about the cognitive dissonance. Here's the issue. This chapter was talking about the issue of our human lives. not that issue. Human lives are they superior to animal lives? Right? Do we have a soul and animals don't? Where do our souls begin? One myth, and I call it a myth, not saying that it's not true, but as definition of this thing that people believe that helps them to understand the way that the universe works. It's a belief. The belief that only humans have eternal souls is something that Mr. Harari identified as important to us. Only humans have eternal souls. Do we have any reason to believe that the other animals would? Why do we hold that myth? Do we hold that myth? Let's just start there. Mr. Ace, how do you feel about that? Listeners, how do you feel about that? Do we have eternal souls? I mean, that's a belief. But is there any reason to believe that we would have them and the other animals wouldn't? Yes, no, maybe. Crickets. I don't know. You know, science. What science has done for us is that it's proven that animals have no souls. When I say animals, I mean them, not necessarily us. Um, and science, okay, has proven it's shown that there's no evidence to believe that animals have a soul. But the same scientists also would have you believe that humans don't have a soul either, because there's no evidence of it. You know, if they knew what to look for, then they'd be able to find it. Maybe if they had some way of measuring the soul or observing it, you know. But they tried tens of thousands of over 20,000 experiments. They were saying nothing for the animals, nor for us. So, you know, people are very hesitant to believe that is the case. They want to believe that we have a soul, that it comes from somewhere and it goes somewhere. But at what point do we have souls and they don't? Yeah, how did that topic
that's a very good, like, it's kind of strange, because you would want to think that man's best friend has a soul. You know, you want to be there with them in heaven, that type of thing. But at the same time, it's like, like you said, we don't have evidence of it. So I know that scientists are all about the evidence, unless the evidence is just not there and they kind of just take things as postulates. There's a few things, like the whole missing link thing. There's more than one link that's missing. But they take it as something that's proven until there's evidence, or it's kind of like guilty until proven innocent. You know, it's there until it's proven that it's not, versus when some scientists come up against Christianity or the spiritual, it's like, well, it's non-existent until I see evidence. So there's kind of that dichotomy, you know, that little bit of cognitive dissonance there, that some scientists just saying like, it doesn't exist, God doesn't exist, because I can't shake hands with him. God doesn't exist because I don't see him or feel him directly, in my life. But for a believer, you know, we attribute the good things that happen to us from God and the bad things from the opposition. And a lot of people who are non-believers will say, well, if there's an almighty God, then why is there so much suffering? If he can do something, then why isn't he? Which, I mean, there's a whole rabbit hole we can go down with that, but that's talk for a different time.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, you hit the nail on the head. You know, we're really getting to this issue of, do we believe it's true until proven guilty, or believe it's guilty until proven innocent? You really have a choice in the matter when, you know, you're talking about something this huge. Like, you have to use your ethics, and you know, ethics came from, in the West, our ethics came from the book. You're saying like the premise of the book is false. So are the ethics that came from it false as well? I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't throw them all out the window. You know, throw the baby out with the bathwater. So, you know, some interesting facts to add to the conversation here. You mentioned that in 2012, there was a Gallup poll taken, and this is just 10 years ago, or 11 now. And it was, at that time, 15% of Americans, you know, in the sample, I don't have the exact sample size, but 15% of Americans believe that humans evolved through natural selection alone. There's no divine intervention. That's 1 in 10. The remaining,
Hmm.
well, 1/3 answered that humans evolved. Humans probably
I see.
evolved through the process that took millions of years, sure, but God was the one that designed that process. He was involved. He orchestrated it in the way that it was done. Um, and that's a third. That's a whole lot more than
Hmm.
the 15%. And then there were 46% I believe that God created humans in their current form, like the way we are now, Homo sapiens, right? Us, within the last 10,000 years. I'm just saying.
Hmm.
That's what the that's the I guess cognitive dissonance. I mean, it's been a while since the creation story, well, not creation myth, the creation story, the creation narrative, creationism left the classroom, and evolution entered the classroom. Like that. That's
Well,
been
no, you could say
six.
creation myth or narrative,
The word is but
because
some people are. That's a trigger word.
the thing about myth
Mm.
is that it's the word myth is has since not been seen as some often has souls to include, or which is a huge thing because we all have, every culture has some type of creation, be a burden of truth. We don't know which one is correct, so it's just all of them are now called creating myths, or not if they're false, they're 100%. Because you say that one is 100%, you say that all the rest are 100% false, and then yeah, people.
Right. That's the thing. Yeah, like growing up, when we said that word myth, like it felt like mythical. We were referencing Roman gods or something with small g. Don't talk about my god. No, my god is no myth. I didn't want to hear myth as a like Santa Claus is a myth. I'm going to put him in the same boat as my god. So I get trying to avoid using that word, but what a myth is, just because it's a myth doesn't mean it's not true. It's a belief, about the way things were long ago, and it tells us something about now. It's almost like it's the big word behind, I guess the bigger word, a bigger concept behind, I don't know, parables and these things. It's the same kind of idea. Whether the story is true in the sense that it actually happened or not is actually irrelevant. What the result is that we know how to understand life and what to do now, better than we would in the absence of that story. Don't say story. And I remember my grandma, I guess it's your grandma too, she used to say stories. Don't say lies. Can't say fibs. Those are bad words.
Yeah.
Right? You say stories. Telling stories. What? Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Telling stories.
That's
ridiculous.
But so, yeah, I mean, so the story that Mr. Harari spins for us in chapter 3, saying that basically half of us believe that creation happened within 10,000 years of today. Basically, the Anthropocene. And in all honesty, I'd like to just have the whole creation story fall right into something like that, that kind of makes sense. When we look at agriculture and the beginning of agricultural man, agriculture, man, that did start about 10,000 years ago. And yeah, I mean, when Eve had a bite and then Adam had a bite, and it's like, all right, we got to start putting on clothes, and God gave him some clothes to wear, so he got kicked out of the garden. But you're gonna have to till the ground. You didn't go back to like hunter-gatherer or anything like that. You were tilling the ground. So the current form is kind of basically like, typical Homo sapiens mindset, building cities and whatnot here and there. Tower of Babel. Like there's a lot more development that happened than some of our previous forms, according to, Mr. Harari and, Homo erectus and all these guys along the way. So, I mean, if you're trying to tell the story within the Genesis timeline, then maybe what the guy was Cain and Abel, right? Maybe Cain, and I'm not making up myths, folks, but I'm just trying to, put these two things together. But maybe Cain went and had relations with. He did, in fact, have relations with, some of our older cousins on the homogeneous timeline. He had to have relations with somebody because Canaanites came from somewhere, and it doesn't say where those folks came from. Although it does say in chapter 1,
well, Canaanites came from Canaan, not from Cain.
Canaanites, no, right? Well, they had to been somewhere, right?
Spelled differently.
Oh, yeah. All right, I'm gonna find out. But basically, the story is that he had children with somebody somewhere. He had wives somewhere, but it wasn't Adam and Eve that made all those other people. Yeah, right? So
descendants, definitely.
Yeah. That being said, for college grads, the number was basically the same. It was 46% believe in creation, and these are BAs. 25 to 29% of master's graduates also believed in the creation story. They didn't want to let it go. And the reason for that is that I'd say the scientific narrative doesn't provide us with a clear alternative, doesn't provide most people with a clear alternative to say, all right, I'm going to put aside this, myth or story or idea about the creation of things in such a way, okay, I'm going to stop believing that I was made in the perfect image, in the image of God himself, and I'm just an animal. I can act like an animal. Most folks don't want to believe that, and I have no spirit. You have no spirit. What? Stupid. We see ourselves, our souls as part of our individual experience. And this goes to that point that I was thinking about making the title of today's show, the indivisible individual. Right? The idea of an individual is one that cannot be divided. Yeah? Like there's no smaller self than self. You are yourself. You are an individual. Right? And your spirit itself, cannot be divided. Body, mind, and soul, like you're all together. Yeah. But evolution would have you believe that no, you are not a constant. You're not a constant. You're, the product of a constant division of cells that are just constantly moving apart and reproducing themselves and making mistakes, and just keeps going. So, that's the kind of the issue for chapter 3. Are we ready to believe that we're just the product of this kind of evolutionary processes, that we were animals up to a certain, and we're still animals, that we didn't leave the animal kingdom, but our minds or our spirit or our consciousness, this is all the result of those processes that I've previously mentioned. Hit us up in the comments section. Let us know what you think. Is that what? Are you ready to accept that? Do the people around you accept that? Some of the scientists that I really appreciate having their voice out there in the ether and really kind of shaping some of the ideas in our collective consciousness. Another one would be Neil deGrasse Tyson. I appreciate his show Star Talk because they talk about the facts, and they mostly focus on the facts, but from time to time they take a shot at the religious, and that's it hurts. We're experiencing a little bit of technical difficulties with our co-host right now, so that's why it feels like you're hearing a whole lot of me. But yeah, so you kind of take shots from time to time, but I believe that even a lot of these scientists, most scientists, they like to understand, and they'd like to see this part of the human story that so many people relate to, so many people base huge decisions on, and financial decisions, life decisions, partner decisions. They place a lot of energy into that and a lot of resources into that. So they would like to understand it scientifically in such a way that we can move forward and in a more of a less of a disjointed way. Ace, did you want to comment in on that point before I move into the mind and consciousness just a little bit?
Oh, go ahead, hit it.
Yeah. So the next piece after the creation bit is okay. Fine. We cannot prove. We don't have any evidence for the soul, but we do have evidence for the experience of having a consciousness. Okay. That consciousness and mind, I don't know if we want to separate those two, but consciousness is something that we do have evidence for. We know that people are conscious or not conscious. We can see it. But to describe where it happens, how it happens, where our memories rest, where, my question, Ace, is what's the first conscious memory that you have from your childhood?
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
Way back. I remember burning myself on a stove, which is a jarring memory. Usually we can remember that, and I think I was about 3 years old. I remember playing in my kitchen. I remember the pattern of the floor. It was very similar to the pattern that you had of your floor growing up. I remember playing in the backyard. I remember my big wheel. I remember hitting my head on the concrete steps, trying to ride down backwards on my big wheel on the steps. So I think I lived in that house between the ages of 3 and 6. I remember a couple birthdays in that house. That was the birthday that you gave me. I'm pretty sure it was you, because it was a Ninja Turtle. It was the magic magician. No, magician Raphael.
That was Raphael. I remember it was like reddish or orange. Yeah.
So I remember getting a giant Ninja Turtle too. So either one of those could have been you. I feel like one of the other ones came from our other cousin, older than you. But yeah, I remember that house. I have very fond memories in that house. I remember getting scratched by a cat in that house. I remember turning on a light and there was a fire
Mm.
So I had to run downstairs and tell my mother.
Something was
yeah,
on
this is
fire.
on fire. So I think that she left something on top of the lamp. She used to have those
Mm.
big. These were really in vogue at the time, where like I had a circular base, and then it
Mm.
had like a cylinder that went up, and then it
Mm.
came out into a. You can't see anything I'm doing right now.
I cannot.
Technical difficulties
I
are
can, I
are a
can see
problem.
it. I can see it in my mind's eye. The
Yeah, it's like
listener.
a black base, and then
Yeah.
it goes up in a small
Yeah.
cylinder, and then in the middle there's a
Like.
gold knob that you click,
Mm.
and then you
Yep.
can dim it up and dim it back down, and then it'll click.
Mm. Yep.
So I think something was on top of that. We had the light plugged into an outlet that was also attached to the light switch. So I turned on the switch.
Mm.
Something went up in flame. I ran downstairs. So I have more than a few memories of my very early childhood.
Wait, now running down the stairs though. At what age would you be okay to run down the stairs? And did you have a carpet on the stairs?
Carpet on the stairs. Yes, I've fallen down those stairs
You did.
backwards.
You did
Yeah.
have.
And there was a small landing at the bottom of the stairs. Very in vogue at that time for houses to be built with you take 3 steps up and it's a landing, and then you turn and then you go up the rest of the stairs.
That's the type of house I have now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, the 3-year-old thing was basically just the burning of the stove. But there are a lot of memories that I have in that house. Like my first time having beefaroni was in that house. Having broccoli and cheese in that house. My dad watching Inside Edition while having that beefaroni. There's certain tastes and smells that are tied to that early childhood that I will never be able to, or I hope I never forget. Like I had a very, very bad temper tantrum in that house. I remember exactly what happened, and I'm not trying to put anybody out there, but the person that was watching me did what they had to do in order to calm me down by force. And it's it's just thinking about these things going back, it's kind of crazy.
See, my question is, as you're thinking about these things, where do you feel those memories?
So that's
I don't want to taint your perception.
No.
I'm going to say, but where do you feel the memories?
So for a very long time, I realized that I have a stronger memory than most. I can usually remember a lot of detail, not like super detailed. I can't remember, I was wearing this color and these shorts and that. But when it comes to where I feel them, the nostalgia factor is there. So I want to say I feel it in my heart, but of course that's not true. You're replaying it in your mind, and like I said, there are certain smells and tastes, so you get those different sensations. Like I remember with that same cousin that I was talking about, it's older than you, Champ's older sister, oldest sister, or well, no, not the oldest.
Your oldest cousin on grandma's side.
Yeah. So
say that. Yeah.
I remember making banana pudding in the kitchen with her. So I can almost taste that banana pudding. I can feel the vanilla wafers. I can see this casserole dish of pale yellow, and all of these things come back. Different senses, different smells, whatever you were holding on to at that time. And it's you don't really just feel it in one place.
I mean, you don't feel it locally, like in your nose, or do you feel you're like salivating? Like,
yeah, I'm definitely salivating over the banana pudding. Definitely. Yeah. So it's not just one place. You are replaying it in your mind. So you have this sort of vision, you're using your imagination to put the pieces together of what happened. So you're seeing it quote quote in your mind's eye of what you did see at that time.
Mhm.
You might hear sounds, kids talking, or your mother telling you to get off the table or what have you.
Right.
Then you think about the actual item itself, that it tasted good, that it was banana pudding specifically. You may start to salivate. Like I said, I could feel vanilla wafers. I almost never have had vanilla wafers in my life aside from banana pudding.
Oh,
Like,
well.
it's not a cookie that I go out, oh, I need some vanilla wafers. No.
They have them down here.
Really?
They really do, like with extra calcium in the vanilla, just to make it a like a health food.
Rich. Oh.
Yeah. I mean, otherwise it's just a wafer. It's done. But yeah, I had a wafer trip.
But vanilla wafers aren't wafers.
Vanilla wafers aren't wafers.
No. Nilla wafers. So they're like a light brown tan cookie, circular. So it's not like that's what I'm saying. It's circular. It's like a little biscuit. It's not the wafer cookies with the cream and then the wafers and the cream. No.
Yeah,
I don't know why they call them wafers. Makes no sense. They are Nilla wafers. I mean, do a Google search. I mean, you'll see it. Nilla. Nilla. Or Nilla or Nila. But yeah, I'm doing my own right now. I want to see the
and it said Nilla wafer banana pudding. This is the first thing.
Yep, I'm telling you, almost exclusively what they're used for. Yeah, Nilla.
So what Mr. Harari focused on as it regards to memories, though, was that we imagine these things like they're sitting on a shelf behind us, like all of these memories behind me on my shelf. If you're looking at us on YouTube here, and all of these have a specific memory for me, and that's why I wanted to show it and say, like, all right, but yeah, our memories are not like sitting there. These are synapses that they're fired in a certain sequence. Electricity just pop, and it's a electric impulse that goes to the next one, and at that point it's told to go on to the next one and told to go on to the next one. And this is so complicated, so interdependent on the system, that if you look at any of the individual parts, it doesn't make any sense. Right?
I see.
Very similar to, he mentioned a traffic jam. Can you understand how a traffic jam works if you only look at one car?
No, it doesn't make sense.
Absolutely not. It cannot make sense. How do you jam? The idea of a jam is, it's a subjective reality that's a result of a communicative activity, and you just cannot have a jam without a community. Like, there's no, it doesn't work.
And what type of jam are you talking about?
You can't jam out by yourself. I don't know. Like, you can feel like you are with all your multiple personalities or something.
Oh gosh.
I've seen it, and no shade, because that's so much love for the person that showed it to me for the first time. My jam ski. But yeah, so I'd say that in a very similar way, when I was sitting in the church this morning, and I was like, all right, how can I link this back to this idea of disciples? It was John chapter 13 verse 31 to 35, and I was a little sleepy as I was listening to it, but I was like, all right, disciples, you are my disciples if you love one another. That's like the command. Love one another, right? And that's how people would know that you are my disciples, right? So this goes back to what we were discussing last week as well. The idea of spirituality being not the result of just studying who God is by yourself, but the connection with the community.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
Like, you can't say that you love God if you don't love your brother. All right?
Well,
that's what it says. That's what it said. Right? If I'm paraphrasing it, right?
Yeah, you good.
So it was like, all right, so can we really understand? Can we understand what our spirits are without its connection to something else? Can we can't really understand where we're looking for a measurement of where the spirit is in man. But if you don't know where that spirit has come from, then how can you even perceive it? Look at how people are connected with that higher power or how they're disconnected from it. And now you have the beginning of a measurement tool. If you're looking for God, look at how people interact with him, or look at how he interacts with us. Look at how he so loved us.
I don't want to interrupt, but it just, what you said there brings up a verse, 1 Corinthians chapter 2 verse 14.
Ooh, I pray that in the morning. I know it's 2:11 for me, but go ahead. What is it?
But the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness unto him. Neither can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned. So you have these scientists, and I'm not saying that it's impossible to prove spiritual things. I know that I've said it on the channel before. There is an experiment that was done with believers, and they were hooked up to machines to scan their brains, given the what is it called, the pure glucose, so that they can start seeing what's firing, and they just asked them to pray. And the portion of the brain that lit up was the same portion for if you're talking to a person right in front of you. And for believers, it's that believing is seeing, not so much that seeing is believing. So these things are discerned spiritually, as we just read in 1 Corinthians chapter 2 verse 14. And if these scientists are not open to the spiritual, then they'll never understand it. It'll always be, like the verse said, foolishness to them. And that's the same thing. I mean, I'm gonna say this. I don't want any Christians to start flaming me and be like, oh, he's not Christian. The same thing can be said of Christians who don't understand science. If you're just saying, oh, it's science, it's of the devil. Like, no. Science is just man trying to catch up to and understand the natural laws that God has put in place. It's all these formulas and everything that we have in place, especially about like cells, the valence electrons of cells, and how the there's, what is it, 2n squared? I'm pretty sure it's 2n squared. Is the formula for valence electrons beyond the second, or beyond the first, so the second and up. So it's that formula is something that man came up with to show the order that was already put in place by God. And that's the only way I can see it, because I believe in intelligent design. I believe in an intelligent creator, one that was very personal and created us, that this wasn't like, I'm not by happenstance, that someone lovingly created and took time on me and built me with a purpose.
And as I'm saying, like that's, and you see it that way, and I think a whole lot of our listeners see that way. At least 1/3 of them are not willing to part. They're not willing to part with what makes sense there. Man, I'm in an interesting place right now. I could see myself frozen in time. Right?
Okay. I thought it was just me.
Okay.
I can see you frozen. And I was like, okay.
going
Look, we
on?
got all the technical difficulties. Look, look, you don't put me up,
Yo,
put me back. I don't know what's going on.
I was trying
Try
to,
it.
you know,
Turn off
slide
your camera, turn it back on again.
slide in and out of time right there, man. That's wild, bro. Interesting.
All right, so it's me, solo dolo. I don't know if I'm here by myself, but the idea of, this idea of science, it is a little crazy. Some of the things that come across do ignite my cognitive dissonance, and some things I do wrestle with, but I have to be real with myself to know that sometimes I'm not going to get it all, and I'm not going to be able to accept it all at that time. And the same thing is true for my biblical studies. I don't know everything of the Bible, and I will not lie and say that I do. If somebody asks me something and I don't know, I'm honest and I say I don't know. But the more study that's done, and the more understanding or the more light that's given to me, the more I can see in the dark room that is the spiritual. Because I'll be the first to say I'm more of an infant than most, and that's not a bad place to be. Everybody has to start somewhere, and I started somewhere, and I've had to relearn when coming up with that cognitive dissonance. I was taught something my whole life, and then I encounter in the scripture something different completely, and I do have to reconcile with myself and go to the creator and be like, you know what, I was doing this wrong because I only had this much, and now as I've gone deeper, I understand where my folly was. Same thing can be said for science. When you first start out, you're told that if you mix this red solution with this yellow solution, you get an orange solution. Ooh, we're doing chemistry. You get to middle school, I was dissecting a sheep's eyeball. It's a little deeper than mixing two fluids. And then in high school, you take actual chemistry and you start to learn about chemical reactions and all of this stuff. And then you go into college, you take those upper division classes, which I never had to take, thank God. But cognitive dissonance doesn't have to be the worst thing to happen to us. And it's not to say that every time a different idea comes up that you just say, okay, I accept it. But if there was never any opposition, then there would never be any growth. In Great Britain, so the UK, the trees there have usually pretty short roots compared to other places in the world. It's like, well, why do they have short roots? Because it rains there so much. There's so much of what they need in the top layer of the soil that they don't have to grow downward, but they're still growing up. So you see, if there's a very strong breeze, a lot of trees can get knocked over really easily, versus, let's say, Connecticut, where I grew up. You see these crazy root systems for trees, going out maybe, I want to say 6 feet. I want to say more like 50 feet, possibly from where the tree trunk is. And then you go to Amazon rainforest, where there's so many intricate root systems in the jungle there. So the rainforest, sorry, not the jungle. But when we come up with opposition, when we see that we need more, or we need to go and get more nutrients, that's when the growth happens. You've seen trees grow around objects. We've seen trees uproot objects. We've seen trees go through metal pipes. They come up against the opposition and they overcome it, or they go around it, or they find a way to deal with it. It's the same thing with humans. We come up against this opposition, we see that there's a way around it or through it, and we do the very same. I mean, for me, that's my 2 cents. I don't know how to stop the lie from my side because I'm a co-host this week. This is going to be a very crazy episode for those listening on Spotify and Anchor. I kind of want to sign off. Like I said, I really don't know how. So I'm going to just leave you guys with the... Oh. Ooh, we got feedback. Man.
Yeah, very interesting. This is playing out.
I basically just wrapped up the show. I mean, I don't know if you want to get back into something else, but it was a good 10 minutes.
Yeah. Interesting. So me,
I can barely hear you.
Okay. All right.
I got you now.
Interesting. Okay, you got me. So that means everybody's got me. Yeah, something very interesting happened with the audio setup here. Hopefully you guys can see me clearly.
Yeah, clear
see,
enough.
okay?
Yep.
Okay, good. Yeah, technical issues on number 47. I think it's because I had all these memories going on back here. It's just like, all right, well, you guys remember when it was real hard to get connected? I'm going to show you. You're going to remember something today. Yeah. No, thank you for the freestyle there. I was listening the whole time. I just had a couple.
Okay, all right.
Screens that weren't letting me back in. But yeah. I like that the piece about the mangroves. It's just like basically, all right, these roots are going down into the earth, picking up, you're getting your nourishment from there. But then regardless if those roots are still active or not, you're just lifting up higher and higher and connected to that light from above as well. So yeah, I mean, for a lot of us, it's important for us to have our roots in the ground so that we don't get blown away by the wind, but we're getting our energy from above. All right. Now that's a quote. You can go ahead and bring that with you. Get yourself a pen, a pad, write it down. All right. It's been your boy TPC Japan. It's been a longer episode because we're just trying to get connected so we can talk to you guys. Hit us up in the comments section. Leave a comment there. Get your pen and your pads because that's what it is. Ace, go ahead and head them off, man.
You already know it's your boy Ace of Cross Culture. Keep an eye out for the giveaway. I'm actually going to talk to my co-host right after this episode if we got a couple minutes, and we're going to do something special, but we're going to do it differently. It's not just going to be by showing up. We don't just want to give you a prize for showing up. No participation trophies here. Want to hear from you guys.
Yeah.
If you guys have ideas on what you want to see from the show, definitely leave it in the comment section. The comment section, not the live comments, because we can't always see those unless we're watching back through the whole show. So just leave it in the comment section up under the video. Be very much appreciated. I think that I've said enough. So until next time, stay prayed up. Be blessed.
All right, be blessed, y'all. Peace.